And now Amir will come to us with a very specific example. So Amir is the person who is responsible in VAC4EU for training and enacting, let's say, the pipeline that we do in the studies of the network, right? So he knows and he has large experience, and he will tell us about that on then making that happen, trying to make what Vera said, try to put that into a kind of something that would work. And then, of course, he finds the same problem that Vera highlighted, and he will tell us how they were addressed in the VAC4EU pipeline. Please.
So first of all, thank you for your invitation. My name is Amir Reza. I'm a medical doctor and PhD student at UMC Utrecht. And also I'm a case validation coordinator and trainer in VAC4EU. And today I will present the VAC4EU case validation pipeline. So let me start with a brief introduction to VAC4EU. In the VAC4EU, we used around 16 real-world data sources across different countries, which covered around 152 million individuals. And our data includes mainly general practitioner records, record linkage, hospital records, and claim data. So one of the most important points for the VAC4EU studies is the use of the common protocol, common data model, and common analytics program. And another important thing is that the person level data keep at the deeps level. So it means that we cannot, the person level data cannot be shared. And we need to implement a pipeline for case validation by retrospective review of the local data and clinical charts. Here we have a brief summary of the studies in the VAC4EU. We have 18 studies, mainly focused on safety and effectiveness of the vaccines, including different brands like Pfizer, J&J, Moderna, and AZ. But let's start with the case validation. In the VAC4EU, we used Brighton collaboration case definition for those outcomes if available. Otherwise, the case validation task force create the questionnaire and the forms internally based on the literature. Our task force includes some experts from UMC Utrecht, RTI, and ULS Clinical. And we try to be aligned completely with the FDA and EMA guidelines for validation of the main outcomes. Our workflow mainly includes 3 steps. The first one is creating the case definition, then creating electronic data capture forms or EDCF, and by the end, training the abstractors. So the first one is that we need to identify existing case definition in the Brighton sources. Otherwise, if we don't have the Brighton collaboration case definition, as I mentioned, we create this questionnaire internally based on the literature. And after that, we need to review the case definition and adapt them based on the study needs. It is important to mention that we need to make questionnaire blind for the abstractors. So, for example, we need to remove some phrase about the exposure to the vaccines because the abstractors need to be blind. And it is one of the most important adaptation. After that, we use RedCap platform to implement the EDCF. For the next step, the validation task force review the script and the logic provided by the RedCap to be sure that everything is completely correct and aligned with the questionnaire and case definition. But for the next step, we use 5 dummy cases for each events. We have created 5 dummy cases for each event based on the case reports. So for this stage, we ask the task force to perform these dummy cases to test the EDCF. Sometimes, most of the times, in this step, we found several errors or bugs with the EDCF. Because of that, we ask again RedCap to update these forms. And now it's ready to release for training phase. In the training phase, we ask abstractors to perform these dummy cases. I will discuss it more further. But based on their problems and their questions, maybe we need to review again the EDCF and make it more simpler or clear. So we have the final update, and after that we release this EDCF to start the real case validation. Now here we can see the training workflow for the abstractors. We start with the schedule a training meeting for them, and we explain the EDCF completely and discuss about the challenges in the filling the questionnaire. After that, we ask all of the abstractors to perform those dummy cases. Then the results were reviewed by the VAC4EU trainer. If everything is correct and aligned, then the VAC4EU can issue an individual certificates for the abstractors, and they can start real case validation. Otherwise, if we found significant discrepancies, we ask abstractors to extra meeting to discuss about their problems. And they need to perform extra dummy cases to be sure that now they are completely aligned with our guidelines and approaches. Then they can start with the real case validation. Here you can see that, I'm sorry because of the changing in the font, but here you can see the name of the events that we validate in the VAC4EU, including GBS, narcolepsy, ITP, TTS, myocarditis, pericarditis, transverse myelitis, encephalitis, thrombocytopenia with bleeding, DVT, pulmonary embolism, hemorrhagic and non-hemorrhagic stroke, and CVSD. This table shows us the distribution of these parentheses across abstracted dummy cases during the training phase. As you can see, the most discrepancies was showed for the TTS, around 54% discrepancies, and a very low kappa value. After the TTS, we can see the highest discrepancies for GBS and myocarditis. On the other hand, we see fully agreement for CVSD and thrombocytopenia with bleeding and transverse myelitis. The important thing here is that we have a large number of abstractors, and they are different between the different events. But it is interesting to know why we have these highest level of discrepancies for the TTS. So let's see this graph. This graph shows the distribution of validation discrepancies across different criteria for different events. As you know, each case definition includes different types of criteria, including lab data, imaging data, clinical symptoms, and alternative diagnosis. If you see for the TTS, we can see that the highest error is related to lab data. Why? Because the most error was they entered the wrong unit. Instead of, for example, 2,000, they entered 200, and it has a huge effect on the level of certainty. After that, after TTS, we can see that the most error is related to make decision about alternative diagnosis for myocarditis, pericarditis, and after that, TTS. It shows that it is very important for the abstractors to have a strength knowledge, background of medical knowledge. Because of that, after review these results, it is interesting to know that we asked several DAPs to change few abstractors because of due to repeated errors, because there were mostly nurses or pharmacists rather than medical doctors. So it was difficult for them to make a decision about alternative diagnosis. These are you can see the number of real case validation up to last December. As you can see, we validate large number of cases for myocarditis, pericarditis, ITP, and after that TTS. We have the different studies with different events, so it's still ongoing. Now I would like to show you an example about what adaptation do we need to have in the TTS case definition. I choose TTS because we saw that it is the most difficult one. We have some challenges in the TTS case definition from the Brighton collaboration. For example, in the Brighton, they mentioned thrombocytopenia with new onset. Okay, abstractors need to know what do we need by new onset? 10 days, 2 weeks, 1 month. So we need to establish a clear definition for some terminology like new onset. The other challenge was about some lab data. In the Brighton collaboration for the TTS asked about the age-adjusted D-dimer, but it is not possible for abstractors to calculate age-adjusted D-dimer. We need to find a way to implement tools to calculate it automatically. And the other one is that we need to have the same unit. We use different countries with different hospitals with different range and units. So it is important for us to have as much as possible the same unit. And we need to make the questionnaire as much as possible simple and user-friendly for the abstractors. So let me show you here on the left side, you see the Brighton version. In the Brighton version, ask about the platelet count under 150 and of new onset with no known recent exposure to heparin. So in this way, abstractors have two choices: check or keep empty. Keep empty means no or unknown. Do they have the information and know that it is no thrombocytopenia or no? They don't have any information. So in the VAC4EU version, we have two adaptations. First, we define any onset. We ask abstractors to check thrombocytopenia if maximum 10 days before the first symptom. So if they found a code of thrombocytopenia for 2 months ago and today is the first symptom, they need to check no, because we have defined the 10 days. In addition, we have defined 3 items here: yes, no, and unknown. So now it's clear for us that it is a missing data or it is no. However, there is no difference between no and unknown on calculating the level of certainty, but it helps us to know about the real world data. Is it available or not? The next part is about the D-dimer. In the Brighton version, the Brighton asks abstractors 3 times in 3 different conditions to make a decision about the D-dimer. How Brighton asks? You can see condition B2, elevated D-dimer more than 8 times. What is the reference to see it is more than 8 times or not? In condition D, another question, Brighton asked for above upper limit. And for another question, it asked 4 times upper limit for age. So it is completely confusing for the abstractors. In the VAC4EU, first of all, we have defined a range. So on the right side, you can see that we define more than 8 times. It means more than 4,000 FEU, and etc. for others. But as I mentioned, it is difficult for abstractors to answer these questions several times and calculation of the D-dimer. Because of that, we implement these tools. In the beginning of the questionnaire, we ask abstractors to just enter the age, enter the value, and only select the units. And after that, these tools automatically calculate if is it more than 8 times upper limit, more than 4 times upper limit, or it's normal. In this way, we avoid the abstractor's effect on calculating the D-dimer. That was the example. And for the next step, in the VAC4EU, we have a close collaboration with the SPIC team. Last year, we have signed a MOU. So we have the living lab with the SPIC team. The SPIC team is from the Brighton collaboration. So now we are exchange our findings, exchange our material like training material, red cap forms, and findings from the abstractors. SPIC is a platform that works mainly for the vaccine safety and define a case definition. And the aim is to create a case definition. And as I mentioned, for the VAC4EU, we use Brighton collaboration case definition. So now we are feedback to them that we find, for example, these parts difficult for the abstractors. There are lots of missing data for these, for example, questions. So our aim is that to improve the case definition for the future, and also a joint publication with them to show the difference between the VAC4EU and Brighton collaboration case definition. And just for the discussion, I would like to know your comments also uh, and your thoughts. How accurate should we be in ensuring that all abstractors classify cases in the same way? And do we need to ensure completely agreement among abstractors, or is some level of variability acceptable? Thank you very much for your attention and time.
Well, thank you really very much, Amir. So I must say that I knew of that, the general line, but really seeing it put all together, for me it's really interesting, because now we really enter into, so it's not one validation study, two validation study. It's like really trying to make it happen, and what the problems really are. And as I mean, I like your question very much, because they are very practical, and then we respond, and we progress.